Hello. In these coming videos, we will discuss about XML, Extensible Markup Language. You will learn it in just 3 days if you concentrated. Uh, this lecture will be about theoretical, and another one will be practical through w3schools.com. First, we start with the theoretical part. Today we will speak about XML tutorial, introduction to XML, XML features, advantages and disadvantages of XML, HTML versus XML, JSON versus XML, XML example, XML syntax, XML tree structure, and XML attributes, and finally XML comments. First, we start with the introduction to XML. Before we start, please subscribe in the channel to receive any new videos to support us to complete, okay? And like it, and if you like this video, distribute and share it through your social media to your friends and colleagues. Introduction to XML. As we said, XML stands for Extensible Markup Language, and this a sample code of how to write XML. It's similar to the HTML code. Okay, so XML properties. XML is a markup language that focuses on data transfer than how the data looks. XML designed to send, store, receive, and display data. In simple words, you can say that XML is used for storing and transporting data. XML become a W3C. W3C stands for World Wide Web Consortium and the main international standards organization for the World Wide Web. Recommendation on February 10, 1998. Number 4, XML different from HTML when we see later now. XML does not depend on software and hardware. It is platform and programming language independent, where XML is unlike HTML, and we see it in the next part. Okay, why we need XML? Since there are systems with different operating systems having data in different formats. In order to transfer the data between these systems is a difficult task, as the data needs to convert it in compatible formats before it can be used on other systems. With XML, it's so easy to transfer data between such systems, as XML does not depend on platform and the language. XML is a simple document with the data which can be used to store and transfer data between any systems. The next part will speak about the features of XML. The first one, XML focuses on data rather than how it looks, transferring and store data than how it looks. Second, it's easy and efficient data sharing. Since XML is a software and hardware independent, it does not dependent on software or hardware. Uh, Number 3, compatibility with other markup language. HTML is compatible. Okay, so it's so much easier to read the data from XML and display it on an GUI, graphical user interface, using HTML markup language. Number 4, supports platform transition. Number 5, allows XML validation. 6, adopts technology advancements. XML supports Unicode, and as we know, supports Unicode means that allows to communicate almost in any information in any written human language like Arabic, English, French, Dutch, Chinese, any human language. The next one, the advantage and disadvantage of XML. So we have advantage and we have disadvantage. Let us start with the advantage. Number one, XML is a platform independent and programming language independent. Number two, XML supports Unicode. So we are repeating what we said before, but we arrange it in another way. So number three, the data stored and transported using XML can be changed at any point of time without affecting the data presentation. Generally, other markup language such as HTML is used for data presentation only. HTML gets the data from XML and display it on the GUI, which is graphical user interface. Number 4, XML allows validation. Number 5, XML simplifies data sharing between various systems because of its platform independent nature. It does not dependent on the software or hardware. XML that does not require any conversation when transferring or transferred between different systems. Disadvantage of XML. XML syntax is verbose مطول and redundant متكرر compared to other text-based data transmission formats such as JSON. The redundancy تكرار in syntax of XML causes higher storage and transportation costs when the volume of data is large. XML document is less readable compared to other text-based data transmission formats such as JSON. XML does not support array. XML file sizes are usually very large due to its verbose nature. It's totally dependent on who is writing. Okay, the next tip, which is the fourth one, is the comparison between HTML and XML. XML, we have 7 points. HTML focuses on how data looks in the presentation, while XML focuses on the data rather than how it looks. Second, HTML is not case-sensitive language, while XML is case-sensitive language. HTML mainly concerned with the presentation of data. XML mainly used for storing and transporting the data. Fourth, HTML is static, while XML is dynamic. Fifth, HTML, the closing tag is optional, while in XML, the closing tag is mandatory. Number 6, HTML uses predefined tags such as BR for break, IMG for inserting image, etc., etc. While HTML uses user-defined tags. User can define and write his words in tags that we create while writing the XML document. Number 7, HTML does not preserve white space, while XML preserves white space. The fifth point of today's video, JSON versus XML. This is a sample code of JSON. It's uses of curly braces and bracket braces, while XML greater than, less than, which is like tags of HTML. You see? Okay, so what are in JSON and what are in XML? The differences first, and we will speak about the similarities between JSON and XML. JSON is simple and easier to read and write, while XML is verbose and less readable. Number 2, JSON does not use end tag. In XML, the end tag is mandatory. Number 3, JSON supports arrays, thus it is easy to transfer a big chunk of homogeneous data items using JSON, while XML does not support an array. JSON is easier and parse and can be passed to ready to use JavaScript object. XML is difficult to parse than JSON. JSON is short, XML document is lengthy, verbose, and redundant. Number 6, JSON is less secure than XML, while XML is more secure than JSON. Number 7, JSON file is more readable than XML because it is short and to the point, while XML file is big and filled with user-defined tags, thus less readable. Number 8 and the final one, JSON is data-oriented while XML is document-oriented. The similarities between JSON and XML. Both JSON and XML are human-readable language. Number 2, both JSON and XML support Unicode, thus any human written language can be written in JSON and XML documents. Both JSON and XML can be parsed. Number 4 and the ends. The data in both JSON and XML can be fetched using XML HTTP requests. Let's go to the next step, which is the example of XML code. This one example. As you see, we have the first line, which is optional, and this first line is called XML prelog. It is optional. However, when we include it in XML document, it should always be the first line of the document. XML prelog defines the XML version and the encoding using the XML document, like in this one, encoding UTF-8. The tag book is the root. Here in the example, we must have a root tag, and then we have the parent tag, and then the child, and then the sub-child. So it's like a tree. The tree must have a root tag. In this example, which is a book, and it's predefined, as you know, so you can set it as you like. So the syntax is root, then a child, then sub-child. Okay. And this is another example for XML student data. Look at it. So let's go to the syntax, XML syntax. Yes, as we said, XML is case sensitive, so you see we have to be case sensitive, okay, because and the second one is not true because we have F capital in the last or the end tag. Okay. XML prelog with the starting line, version, and encoding. For elements should not overlap. You can't overlap elements. Okay. You cannot overlap elements. This wrong is the first one. Okay. Attributes in XML. Attribute names are case sensitive and should not be quotation marks. Okay. Case sensitive. Attribute values should be in a single double quotation. double quotation الفاليو بتاعتها. Okay. Number 6, XML elements must have closing tag. As you saw, we start with the text tag. We have to end with a slash text. And the second one is wrong, no closing tag here. Comments in XML in this way, like HTML. Okay, this is the comments. White space are preserved in XML. Preserved. Okay. And this is the tree structure. As we see, it's like a tree We have the root here. The root is the company, and we have branches. The child is employee, and the subchild is name, and we have address has subchild with its city, state, and pin. Okay, it's take a structure of true. Okay, so we can practice this in next videos and do it in examples, and we can write our example here or copy this example and put in our notepad, and same the file with .xml, and operate this in Explorer or in DOS. It's have many ways to operate and run this. So we can display here. We have online platform, so we see this the result of this code, which is written as we saw here. We have the tag to and the from and the heading. It appears, and the value after a column. Okay. Follow me to complete this course about XML. XML is very important to design mobile applications through Android Studio. We will discuss many examples on how to write XML in Android Studio for creating mobile application. Follow me and concentrate with me. Don't forget to subscribe in the channel to continue with you. Thanks for listening. With you, engineer and educator Osama Ghandour at Asher STEM School.